Today I'm reviewing the BCG 820SS, or commonly known as the Breville Smart Grinder Pro. We're going to cover things about the basic features of it, then we're going to dial it in and see if this is the right grinder that you should buy next for your home coffee setup. Now, we get asked a lot about whether you should have a grinder with your home coffee setup or not. The easy answer is yes, 100%. You should buy any type of coffee grinder to match with your home coffee machine. That means that you're not going to go to a store and buy some pre-ground beans that have probably been aged for quite some time. You're going to use a pressurized basket in your group handle and have a poor result. So if you can afford to buy any type of home grinder and add it to your coffee machine setup at home, you're going to increase your results tenfold. There is no doubt adding any type of grinder like the Breville Smart Pro to your home setup that you're going to get so much better flavor. So is this the right grinder for you? Well, if you're looking at the entry-level price point, this is definitely a grinder that you should consider. It's the second model in the Breville range, and there are a lot of other grinders that are out there in the under $400 mark. Now, for me, this is standing out like a pretty good option, and I'll tell you why. There's a lot of features in this grinder that you do see in the $1,000 to $2,000 grinders out on the market, all the Italian-made products, but it's simply made here, very easy to use, and it's a very cost-effective option. So how do they make it so cheap? Well, definitely we don't have the build quality here in this Breville unit that we see in the Italian-made products. We do have plastic hoppers, some plastic around the side and stainless steel, and definitely some of the internal components are a little bit on the cheaper side. But the value that it brings is very high compared to the quality. So if we're saying this is about a $400 grinder and you're looking at a commercial high-end Italian maybe grinder or home prosumer sort of grinder, you're well over the $1,000 to $1,500 mark. So in reality, you could almost buy 3 of these for the life of a higher end unit. So it's a very great budget option, and to fix it and service it is very simple and easy, and it does come with a 2-year warranty. So that's some pretty good peace of mind in an entry-level price. So if we start at the top and work our way down, we've got ourselves a nice size hopper with a little handy handle to put your finger in and pull off the hopper lid. We've got a 450 gram hopper, which is very generous in these low-end entry-level grinders. As we remove this with a simple turn, it creates a safety mechanism so you're not going to get your fingers all munched up when you remove your hopper, and the beans aren't going to fall out from the bottom. So that's a nice little nifty tool there. As we look at our burrs, we've got a 40mm stainless steel conical burr set. Now they remove very simply and easily. There's a little wire that you lift up and you rotate with the arrows, and that will allow the burr set to come out. You can simply get in here and clean very easily, and there is a micro adjustment that happens on the burrs. All you have to do is remove the metal pin, and then you can adjust the burr set to the plastic mechanism. Now that's not something you're going to do at the very start. Over time, the burrs are going to wear out, and that micro adjustment is going to bring all the burrs closer together and allow your grinder to be more reset and get a bit more life out of your burrs. Now we have a look at the LCD display. It's a nice blue, which is quite striking, and you can see on the front there are 3 simple controls. So the first one is this dial here, which is the grind amount, which is actually changing the first parameter of time. So how much that machine is going to grind for time is going to give you the amount that you're going to end up in your portafilter handle. The second option here is how many shots do you want? Now that's a little bit old school because the numbers do go up quite high, but essentially it is just a multiplier to the amount of time that you have set on that first button. Now that would only be used if you had a single shot handle or a single basket in a single shot handle. Then you've got a double shot, and you had an exact recipe of maybe 9 grams in your single basket and you had 18 grams in your double basket. So essentially you wouldn't have to really change your grind time, you're just pressing the button twice to get 2 cycles of that one amount of grind. Now that's probably something we used to use on the commercial space, a fair bit older, but not so relevant now. And then you have a manual start-stop for your grind settings. Once you start this, it will start the grind. You could pause, pull out your dose and give it a bit of a tap to collapse the grinds, and then start again by pushing the button. You can also utilize this by putting your handle into the cradle, starting it, removing the handle out of the cradle, and popping it back in again. So it's a multi-switch option in the grinder. And then across the top of the LCD display, you can see your grind adjustment. Now, the Breville Smart Pro has 60 grind settings, which is huge. So you can start right down fine at espresso, work your way up to plunger or percolator, or right up to your cold brew settings. The dial on the side simply just takes you through the different settings, and on the top here, you can see the ranges of the type of grind that you're going to have for the product that you're going to be grinding for. So you don't always have to go straight into a handle. You could pop a dosing pot down under here or straight into perhaps a paper filter and grind straight into those products by using the top button, and you don't have to use your grind brew activation switch down the bottom. On the side of the machine, we've got a very big dial here which talks about grind size. Now for me, this is actually quite relevant because if we look into our manuals, we always talk about slowing down or speeding up our extraction based on the time of our recipe. So it does make sense to me that if we're going finer, which is clockwise on this dial, we are going to slower the extraction down. And it does say that quite clearly on the side of the grinder. If we are finding that our time of our extraction is going too long, we want to speed it up. So we will actually go anti-clockwise and essentially go faster or coarser on our extraction, and that will speed up our time. As we head to the base of the grinder, there is a removable tray here. So if you do make a bit of mess, you can certainly clean that up very easily. And then underneath, there's a really good guide of some key things that you should know about in the maintenance care of your burrs, and a bit of a process here. It's a six-step process on how to do that with a cleaning brush. You've also got the customer service number there for Australia and New Zealand, should you need it, which is fantastic. You don't have to go to the manual. It's nice in there, and the team at Breville are super handy and helpful when you need them. The Breville Smart Grinder comes with a cleaning brush, this handy little grind container which is fully sealed, and inside it does have a couple of references of maybe 12 cups of percolator amount of coffee. You've got your French press here as well, and you've got your espresso. So a little bit of a guide if you're trying to pre-grind perhaps for a couple of days. And then you do have your two portafilter holders. They're very easy to interchange. One is for a 50 to 54 millimeter, and the other one is for your commercial grade 58 millimeter group handles as well. They have a simple magnet to be able to attach. They're very easy to interchange. Now, if you're the kind of person that's been searching the internet to look at all the awesome stuff that you can get in any type of grinder, like grind retention or heat transfer to your grind versus your burr sets, this isn't the kind of grinder that's going to have all of those amazing new technologies. You're going to have to spend a lot more money. But it is a great grinder that's going to allow you to have fresh ground product very easily, the right amount into your portafilter handle, and it's going to be neat, clean and tidy, around the 400 bucks. So don't try and compare this to a high-end grinder. It's definitely not in that market. So I've got a bag of Champion Blend here, and we're going to start to dial this grinder in and make a coffee on the Breville dual boiler that I have beside me. This has never been set up yet, so I want to take you through that first setting of how to get the grinder right for your coffee machine. The Breville dual boiler here is just on its standard settings. We'll see how that coffee tastes as well. Now keep in mind that when you are popping new beans into a brand new grinder, there are quite a few, I guess, little metal tastes that tend to happen with manufacturing. So the first couple of coffees, you don't really want to judge it 100% on that, but you definitely want to let the burrs wear in a little bit and get a bit of that manufacturing taste out. And then you can make the decisions how tasty the coffee's going to be. So this Champion Blend is 14 days old, so that's the perfect age to start using great coffee. With the 450 grams that you've got in here, you could fill it right up. You could buy yourself a kilo of coffee, and you're going to save when you buy a kilo over small quantities, and then maybe get yourself an Airscape or some other vacuum sealed container to care for the rest of your beans until you're ready to fill your hopper back up again. So we've got our coffee machine on and hot. We're going to make our first grind into the basket directly. What I want to do is I want to use my scales down here to tear them off and we're going to try and get 19 grams of coffee into the double basket. So you can see that this is the full commercial basket. It's not the pressurized basket because that is the basket that matches ground coffee. So we'll pop this in. I've got it set to a grind size of 12 and about 14 seconds with one shot. And I reckon this will be a good guess to see how close we are in setting it up from the very start. I'm using the manual press there on the button. I'm looking at the grind. It's just starting to clump a little bit as a fine grind, which is fine. And we've got our timer cut out there. So let's just see how much weight we have. Okay, we're at 14.6 grams, so we're going to need a couple more grams. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to collapse that coffee a little bit, and we need to get ourselves a little bit more. So I'm just going to manually press and start and stop this for about 3 seconds. And we'll see how we go with our weight. Oh, look at that, 19 grams spot on. So that is how much coffee I want to use to fill this basket. So I added about 3 more seconds. So if I go and adjust my grind time now from 14 up to 15, 16, so 17, we could be spot on if this grind size is correct. So it's pretty simple there to make that adjustment. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to give this a bit of a tap, level this coffee out. You can see the quality there. It is quite a fine grind. It's starting to clump just a little bit. And now when it clumps, I know it's pretty close to what we need for espresso. If this was super coarse and they weren't starting to statically cling together, I'd know I'd have to go finer. But that you don't want to be super fine because you will block the grinder. So with a little bit of experience we've had, I made a pretty well educated guess there. So we're going to use the tamper that just comes with the Breville dual boiler, and we're going to give that a tamp and a little bit of a twist there. Maybe just there's a couple little grinds on the top. We'll pop them back in and just give it another little polish as well. We'll clean up the lugs so we're not putting mess inside of our group head. We're going to lock it in, and I'm just going to use the manual button, and I'm going to use the scales here to give us a 2-to-1 recipe. So we'll lock that in, pop in our scales, we'll tear that off, and we're going to hit our manual button, and because we've got 19 grams of coffee, we're going to go for 38 grams of end liquid weight in a double shot. Now on this machine, if we push this manual button and hold it, it will actually run the standard pre-infusion settings until we release it. And we have to press it again. You can hear that pump increasing. There we go, we're getting some extraction coming out at about 10 seconds. I'm going to keep going till we get to our 38, and I'm going to hit stop now. Oh, look at that, pretty close. All right, so we've ended up with 42 grams of end liquid in 19 seconds. Now, our recipe is really going to be more around 23 to 24 seconds of time of extraction, and we want to make sure that this is an exact 2-to-1. So we would have been, we're 4 grams over in our extraction. So what does it taste like when you take a brand new grinder and have a guess at the extraction with a new machine? Well, we were very close to the recipe. We're only 4 grams out in our yield and about 3 seconds to 4 seconds too fast. So typically this is a faster, under-extracted coffee in terms of speed and time, but the volume is more than a 2-to-1, which we were trying to achieve. We did get a bit of a crema. It does smell a little bit on the bolder side, maybe a little bit of bitterness in the smell. The crema has already dissipated, so that's one sign to show that we didn't quite get enough out of that coffee to start with. And look, it's not terrible. It's certainly bold. The sweetness isn't there, the juiciness isn't there. If this had to be the first coffee, you'd be happy with it, but you'd want to make some adjustments. So where would you go from here? Well, the first thing you would do is you would increase, as I showed you before, the amount of actual time that we needed. to be able to achieve that 19 grams. I can test that now and see if we're pretty close when we look at the 17 seconds. But if we're going to make a grind change, we would have to make sure that the time is going to match when we change the grind. So I would be looking to go a little bit finer in grind for sure. I would want to slow the extraction down to give us about 24 seconds, and we definitely want to stop the yield at that 2:1 ratio, which is 38 grams of liquid. So I know you're looking at this video because it's an entry-level grinder, and what I went through there, if that was a little bit much in terms of weight, yield, dose and grind settings, perhaps it'd be good to jump on our website and download Artisti's Home Barista Manual. It's going to cover all of these things we talked about. It's going to help you understand about grind settings, dose, yield, and create your recipe, and it was actually based around a Breville product, a coffee machine. So that is a great tool for you that will help you understand how to dial in that little bit more specific for your own coffee setup. So there you have it, the BCG 820 SS, which is stainless steel, or the Breville Smart Grinder Pro. Is that the next grinder or your first grinder that you should be looking at? Well, if you've had a very entry-level grinder, this would be definitely a step up. If you can afford this kind of price point for your first grinder, I would highly recommend it. It's definitely going to give you the best value on the market around that $400 mark. If you're looking to spend more, perhaps start to compare this with some other videos we have on our channel with some higher end grinders. Remember, if you do have a grinder, the better quality of the grinder, the better the extraction is going to be because of the grind quality and consistency. So start to weigh that up, but this is an amazing product to start with if you don't have any at all, to get you out of that pre-ground product. Now, if you've got any questions about the Breville Smart Grinder, pop it down below and I'll try and answer that one for you. And yeah, welcome to us producing some videos on Breville. So if there's something particular you think you want us to do a review on, pop a comment down below as well. We look forward to exploring a little bit more about the Breville range, and we want to help you make better coffee on these products. So thanks very much for watching. We appreciate it. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.